The twin suns blazed over the dry battlefield as dust curled in the wind. Broken banners flapped on splintered poles. Alien soldiers limped back to their camps while the wounded groaned in the dirt. At the edge of the fighting ring, a human lay. Still, half buried in sand, he wasn't moving. His arm looked twisted, his back cut open by claws. The alien warlords laughed from their shaded platform, tossing coins and drinks. Around them stood slaves in chains, forced to serve. Among them was a tall, violet-skinned girl with silver hair and quiet eyes. She was the most prized among them, known only as Lyra. Such a waste, sneered one warlord. A bloated creature with a golden neck chain. The human won't last another round. He should have stayed in the mines. Another laughed and held up a contract. Then I'll wager him my strongest blade and that girl. If the human lives, you win both. If he dies, she's mine forever. The crowd of aliens roared with excitement. Bets were shouted, rules declared. The girl Lyra stayed silent, her eyes fixed on the motionless human. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched the fan meant for her master. The human stirred. It was small, almost nothing, but his fingers moved. His hand reached slowly toward the hilt of a broken weapon near his side. The aliens didn't notice. They were too busy cheering for his defeat. Lyra noticed. Her breath caught. She stepped back behind her master, hiding her face, but her eyes never left the human. Blood covered his back, but something in his movement was steady, focused, deliberate. His fingers closed around the weapon. He rolled to the side and forced himself to his knees. Sand stuck to his skin and open wounds. He didn't care. His eyes found the crowd, locked on the fat warlord's face. The alien's smug grin faded for the first time. A quiet spread. What is he doing? Someone muttered. He should be dead. The human didn't speak. He stood up. His left leg shook under him, torn muscle barely holding. But he stood, and that was enough. He raised the broken blade. The crowd fell completely silent. The fat warlord shouted, "Get back down, fool!" But the human didn't listen. He limped forward, toward the center of the fighting ring again. The sand burned beneath his feet. Blood dripped from his side. He walked like a man with nothing to lose and everything to gain. Lyra's heart pounded. She had seen many humans before. Most were broken, weak, beaten. But this one stood in front of death and did not bow. Her chains rattled as she leaned forward, just a little, forgetting her place for a second. The next challenger stepped into the ring. It was a tall beast with insect-like limbs and armor made from bone. It hissed and spread its arms wide, blades clicking together. The crowd began to chant again. Their voices returned, hungry for blood. The human didn't flinch. He charged forward with all the strength he had left. Pain racked his body with every step, but he moved like fire. His blade clashed with the creature's claws. The fight was brutal, raw. The sound of steel against bone echoed across the sand. Blood flew. The beast slashed his arm. The human stabbed its shoulder, back and forth, neither giving up. Dust covered them both. For a moment, they looked like monsters fighting in hell. Then the human ducked low, spun under the creature's swing, and drove his blade into its chest. Silence returned. Creature collapsed. Its limbs twitched once, then went still. The human stood over it, his body swaying but still upright. The fat warlord stood up in disbelief. Lyra dropped the fan. He had won. Against all odds. Against pain, chains, and laughter, the wounded human had won. And now, by the rules of the bet, everything the warlord had placed on the table was his, even the girl with violet skin and silver hair. The arena was quiet after the human's victory. Dust settled around the dead creature's body. The wounded man stood tall, though blood poured down his side. His chest rose and fell heavily as he turned toward the crowd of warlords. They stared back in disbelief. The fat warlord's face had turned pale. His wide fingers clenched the arms of his throne. He looked from the dead beast to the human, then to the slave girl standing beside him. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The human didn't wait. He stepped forward with slow, limping movements. Each step left a bloody print in the sand. His hand pointed to the girl, the one promised in the bet. Lyra stood frozen, her violet skin glowing softly under the sun. Her silver hair moved in the dry wind. Her heart beat faster. The fat warlord grunted. "Impossible," he growled. "This doesn't count. He cheated. He must have had help." "No." "Help," barked a voice from the side. It came from an older alien, the one who kept records of all wagers. He stepped forward and lifted a glowing scroll. "The rules are clear. He won. The slave belongs to him now. So does the blade." The crowd muttered. Some laughed. Others shouted. The fat warlord stood up, furious. His guards drew weapons, but the recorder raised his hand. "Violation of a wager leads to exile or death," he warned. "You offered her freely. Do not dishonor. The code." The guards paused. The warlord's face twisted in hate, but he said nothing. He sat back down and waved a hand sharply. "Take her," he snapped. "Let the fool see what she's worth. She won't last tonight." Lyra flinched at the words but didn't lower her head. Two small aliens unlocked her chains. Her wrists were red where the metal had bitten into her skin. She stepped forward slowly toward the human. Her bare feet made no sound on the sand. The crowd watched as she crossed the ring and stopped in front of him. He looked at her. She looked back. No words were spoken. She reached out and helped him stand straighter, placing his arm over her shoulder. He didn't push her away. He didn't smile either. Together, they turned and walked away from the ring. Behind them, the fat warlord watched in silence. They were taken to a tent at the edge of the camp. It was simple, made from stitched cloth and bone. Inside, the human collapsed to his knees. Lyra quickly moved to help him. She pulled water from a cracked jar and wiped the blood from his wounds. "You are lucky to be alive," she whispered. He looked at her, his voice dry. "What's your name?" She hesitated. No one had asked her that in years. "Lyra," she said softly. He nodded. "I'm Cade." Lyra cleaned the cuts in silence. Cade winced but didn't stop her. He watched her move with careful hands. She was graceful but strong. Her back had scars too, old ones. They were not from battle. They were from punishment. "You've been a slave long?" he asked. "Since I was a child," she said. "I belonged to 4 masters. He was the worst." Cade leaned back. His body ached, but his eyes were steady. "You're free now." Lyra stopped. She turned to him. "Am I?" she asked. "You're not mine," he said. "Not like that. The bet gave me a weapon and your life. I'll take the blade. You can do what you want with the rest." Lyra stood still for a moment. Then she sat beside him. "I choose to stay," she said. Cade said nothing. Outside the tent, the camp was alive again. But something had changed. The warriors talked of the human who wouldn't die, the slave girl who walked away from her master, the bet that had broken pride and tradition. Inside, Cade closed his eyes. Lyra watched him in silence. She had no collar. Now no chain. She didn't know where this path led, but for the first time in her life, it was her path, and she had chosen to walk it beside a human. The morning sun rose over the camp, casting a golden glow across the dust and tents. Cade sat outside, sharpening the blade he had won. His wounds still ached, but he was alive. That alone made him dangerous in the eyes of the aliens watching from afar. Lyra sat near him, wrapping herbs in cloth. She had learned healing from the older slaves. Her fingers moved quickly, her expression focused. She glanced at Cade's arm, where the deepest gash had already started to close. "You heal fast for a human." She said quietly, "I've had practice," Cade replied. Nearby, whispers spread. Aliens from different factions came to see him. Some offered food, others asked to speak. But Cade said little. He didn't trust anyone here. Not yet. Not with the way they stared at Lyra, like she still belonged to them. One tall alien with blue skin and red eyes stepped forward. "I watched your fight," he said. "You beat that beast without fear. We could use strength like yours." Cade didn't look up. "I'm not for hire." The alien smirked. "Everyone's for hire in this place." Lyra stood quickly and stepped between them. Her eyes narrowed. "He said no," she snapped. The alien chuckled and walked away. But the warning in his smile was clear. No human could stand in this place for long without choosing a side. Later that day, Lyra brought Cade a piece of fruit and a piece of old cloth to use as a tunic. He accepted both with a nod. They sat under a piece of shadowcloth tied to a broken pole. "You're being watched," she said. "I know," he answered. "They won't let you leave," she added. Cade looked out across the camp. "I'm not leaving yet." That night, a scream tore through the camp. Cade jumped to his feet, gripping his blade. Lyra followed close behind. They moved through the maze of tents until they reached the center. There, under the light of alien torches, lay the body of another fighter. His throat had been cut. His weapon gone. The fat warlord stood nearby. He saw Cade and pointed. "You brought this chaos," he shouted. "You bring war to our camp." Cade stepped forward. "I bring nothing, but I'm not blind. Someone here doesn't like what I won." Murmurs spread among the onlookers. The recorder alien appeared again. He raised the scroll of rules. "No violence outside the ring. No theft. The price must be paid," the warlord growled. "Then find the one responsible." "I already know," Cade said. All eyes turned to him. Cade pointed toward the blue-skinned alien from earlier. "He came to recruit me. I refused. Now another fighter is dead. His blade is missing." The blue alien stepped forward, laughing. "You have no proof." "Then let's settle it in the ring," Cade said. "Just like before." Gasps filled the crowd. Lyra stepped close to Cade and whispered, "You can't fight again. You're still weak." Cade whispered back, "I have no choice." The blue alien grinned. "Very well, but this time no wagers. Just blood." The recorder nodded. "It is allowed." "The ring will be ready at dawn." Cade spent the night cleaning his weapon. Lyra helped him bind his arms and legs with tight cloth to keep the wounds from opening. They didn't speak much, but their eyes stayed on each other. At dawn, the ring was surrounded. Every alien came to see. Some held drinks. Others placed silent bets, even though this was no official wager. The fat warlord sat on his throne again. Watching with cold eyes, Cade entered the ring. The blue-skinned alien followed, armed with a curved blade. His movements were sharp, his body lean and fast. He circled Cade like a hunter around prey. But Cade didn't move. Then the fight began. The first strike came fast. Cade dodged and rolled, his body reacting on instinct. Pain flared in his side, but he ignored it. He parried the second blow and stepped in close. They clashed in a fury of sparks and steel. The crowd screamed. Blades sliced air and skin. Blood hit the sand. The fight was faster than the last. More brutal, more personal. Lyra watched from the edge, her fists clenched. She had never prayed before, but now her lips moved silently. In a sudden motion, Cade disarmed the alien. His opponent stumbled, then fell. Cade held the blade to his throat, but he didn't strike. He stepped back instead. The crowd fell silent. "I'm not your killer," Cade said, "but keep pushing me, and I'll forget that." Then he walked away, leaving the ring behind. The camp was no longer the same after Cade spared his enemy. Whispers spread faster than fire. Some called him weak. Others called him honorable. Many had never seen mercy shown inside the fighting ring. Cade didn't care what they called him. He sat near his tent, sharpening his blade. His muscles were sore. His wounds bled again, but he didn't complain. He had survived 2 fights in a world where humans were expected to die in the first. Lyra brought him water. She knelt beside him, her expression unreadable. Cade took the cup and drank slowly. The sun above was harsh, but he had grown used to the heat. What he couldn't ignore was the growing tension in the camp. "They're planning something," Lyra said. "I know," Cade replied. "They think if you win again, others might rise." "Other humans. Other slaves," she added. "They're afraid of change," Cade said. Lyra nodded. "And scared people do foolish things." That night, someone set fire to their tent. Cade woke first. He grabbed Lyra and pulled her out before. The flames swallowed everything, the air filled with smoke. Shouting echoed through the camp. Some came to help. Others just watched from the shadows. He didn't see who did it, but he knew why. They slept under the stars, using broken cloth to cover themselves from the wind. Cade didn't sleep. He kept his weapon in hand, his eyes scanning every shadow. Lyra stayed close, her head resting near his side. In the morning, the recorder arrived. He looked at the burned remains of the tent, then at Cade. "You're upsetting the balance," he said. "The fighting was for sport, for control. Now it's becoming something more." "It was never a game to me," Cade said. The recorder sighed. "You can still walk away. Leave now, before the next challenge is forced on you." "I'm not running," Cade answered. Lyra looked at the recorder. "Then tell us the truth. Who rules this place? Who gives the orders when the warlords disagree?" The recorder paused. "There is one," he said. "The High Judge. She arrives once a cycle. She watches, listens, and punishes those who break." "The deeper laws. When does she come?" Cade asked. "She's already on her way." Later that day, guards surrounded Cade. The fat warlord had called a tribunal, a false trial. He stood above the rest, claiming Cade had broken rules, that he had brought rebellion, that he had stolen a slave meant for higher lords. Cade stood alone in front of the platform. Lyra tried to reach him, but guards held her back. Her eyes burned with fury as the warlord's voice boomed through the camp. "This human is a threat to our order," he declared. "He brings chaos. He must be removed." Cade looked up without fear. "You fear me because I fight back," he said. "Because I don't kneel," the warlord sneered. "You're nothing but a wounded animal, and now you'll be caged." The crowd stirred, but before the warlord could order Cade's capture, a sound cut through the air. A long horn, deep and powerful. Everyone froze. The recorder stepped forward quickly, kneeling. "She is here," he said. All heads turned. At the far edge of the camp, a sleek transport ship landed. Dust flew everywhere. From its doors stepped a tall, armored figure. Her cloak shimmered in the sun. Her face was hidden behind a silver mask. She moved with grace and authority. The High Judge had arrived. The guards backed away. Even the fat warlord bowed, though his fists clenched in secret. The judge said nothing. She walked straight to the center where Cade stood. She looked at him. "You are the human who wins," she said. Cade nodded. "I fight because I must." The judge turned her gaze to the crowd. "This place runs on rules, wagers, law. If they are broken, then so is peace." She looked back to Cade. "Do you wish to challenge their control?" "I challenge what they've become," he said. The judge raised a hand. "Then you will fight." "One more time," she said. "Not in the ring. In the pit. Against a beast chosen by all warlords. If you win, the law changes. Slaves will be allowed to earn freedom." The camp gasped. "And if I lose?" Cade asked. "You die," the judge said. Lyra stepped forward and said only one word: "No." The word echoed through the camp like thunder. Lyra's voice had been calm, but sharp. Her refusal hung in the air, daring anyone to challenge it. Every alien eye turned toward her, surprised that a former slave had spoken so boldly. The High Judge tilted her head slightly. "You object?" she asked. Lyra stepped forward, standing beside Cade. Her violet skin shimmered under the sunlight. Her voice was steady. "You ask him to fight a beast chosen by those who fear him. That is not justice. That is a trap." The crowd murmured. The judge did not reply immediately. She studied Lyra with hidden eyes behind her silver mask. Then she turned back to the warlords gathered nearby. "Is the challenge fair?" the judge asked. The fat warlord stepped forward, sweat rolling down his neck. "He threatened our order. He refused a direct offer of service. He turned my slave against me. He deserves no mercy." Lyra's fists clenched. Cade remained silent. He knew words wouldn't help him now. Only strength. Only courage. The judge finally raised her hand to silence the noise. "The pit was your choice," she said to the warlords. "So be it." She turned to Cade again. "You will enter the pit at dawn. If you survive, the law of ownership changes. Slaves may earn freedom through proven strength." Cade nodded without hesitation. That night, the camp buzzed with energy. No one had ever faced a beast from the pit and returned. It was a death sentence disguised as a trial, but the crowd was eager. They had grown bored of ordinary fights. Now they wanted blood, spectacle, and the chance to see a human fall inside the broken tent. Cade sat sharpening his blade again. Lyra sat across from him, mixing herbs in a wooden bowl. Her eyes were shadowed with fear, but her hands never stopped. Working, she handed him a cloth soaked in paste and began wrapping his arm. "You shouldn't go," she whispered. Cade looked at her. "It's not just for me anymore." "You'll die down there," she said. "Maybe," he replied. "But if I don't try, nothing will ever change." Lyra's hands stopped. "I don't want you to be another broken name," she said. "Another one they whisper about and forget. I'd rather be forgotten than live on my knees," Cade said. She didn't argue. Instead, she reached for his hand and held it tightly. He didn't pull away. For the first time since they met, he let the silence stretch between them like a thread neither wanted to cut. At dawn, the crowd gathered around the pit. It was deep, wide, and surrounded by sharpened spikes. The bottom was layered with bones. The stench of blood rose into the morning air. Warlords sat on high platforms, while the judge stood beside the gate in silence. Cade stepped forward, wearing only a cloth over his wounds and the blade at his side. Lyra followed close behind until guards stopped her. She stared at him, eyes wide and unblinking. Cade gave her a nod before jumping down into the pit. The gate slammed shut. For a moment, there was silence. Then the floor trembled. The beast emerged from the shadows. It was massive, covered in scales, its arms ending in jagged bone claws. Its eyes glowed red, and its mouth held rows of needle-sharp teeth. The crowd cheered wildly. Cade held his stance. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He waited until the beast lunged forward. Dust exploded into the air. Cade rolled to the side, barely dodging the strike. The ground cracked under the creature's weight. He slashed. The blade hit hard scale and bounced away. The beast roared and swept its tail toward him. Cade ducked, rolled, and came up behind the creature. He stabbed into the back of its leg. It screamed, but it didn't fall. It turned and backhanded him across the pit. Cade hit the ground with a thud. Blood spilled from his mouth. He coughed, but rose again. His leg shook, his chest burned. Still he stood. Lyra shouted from above. "Get up," she cried. "You're not done." Cade blinked blood from his eyes. He looked at the beast, now limping. He circled slowly, waiting, watching. Every move counted now. He had one chance left, and he would not miss it. Asterisk, the beast charged again. Cade waited until the last second. He threw himself to the side, letting the creature's momentum carry it. Past. Its claws missed him by inches, tearing a deep gouge into the stone wall behind him. The crowd above screamed louder. They wanted blood, but Cade wasn't here for their pleasure. He was here to end something, to change everything. He gritted his teeth and ran forward. His blade flashed under the rising sun, catching the beast across its wounded leg. It howled. Stumbling, it slammed its arm down, missing him again. Cade moved faster now, ignoring the pain in his side. He climbed the creature's arm, using the scales as steps. Each movement cost him breath, but he climbed higher. The beast twisted. Cade almost lost his grip, but he stabbed his blade deep into the shoulder joint and held on. Blood sprayed from the wound. The creature shrieked and began to thrash violently. Cade held tight, driving the blade in deeper. Then he jumped. He leaped from its back and landed hard on the stone floor, rolling. To protect his broken ribs, the beast turned, screaming in pain. Its left arm no longer moved. Cade stood again, body trembling, eyes locked on its chest. He ran, straight at it. The creature roared and swung its other arm, but Cade ducked and dove under the blow. He rolled between its legs and came up behind it again. With one last cry, he plunged the blade deep into the base of its spine. The beast collapsed. Its body crashed into the ground, shaking the pit. Dust flew high into the air. Cade remained standing for only a moment longer before falling to his knees. He dropped the blade. His body refused to move anymore, but he was still alive, above. No one spoke. The judge stepped forward, her silver cloak billowing. She raised one hand and declared in a voice that rang across the sky, "The human has won. The beast is dead. The law is now changed." Warlords stood frozen. Slaves whispered the words to each other. Some cried. Some dropped to their knees in shock. A new rule had been born not from bloodlines or thrones, but from one man's fight for dignity. Cade looked up slowly. He saw Lyra running toward him. The guards didn't stop her this time. She dropped into the pit beside him and threw her arms around his shoulders. Her hands trembled as she pulled him close. "You did it," she whispered. He nodded once. Two healers climbed down to help him. Lyra refused to leave his side. They placed him on a litter and carried him through the silent camp. Eyes followed them, but no one jeered. No one mocked. The fat warlord was gone. His platform stood empty. Rumor said he had fled just before the final blow was struck. Cade didn't ask. He didn't care. He had won something greater than revenge. He had earned freedom, not just for himself, but for many. Back at the tent, Cade rested while Lyra watched over him. She held his hand, refusing to let go. The blade he had used now rested beside him, cleaned and wrapped in cloth. It was no longer just a weapon. It was a symbol. Days passed. News of his victory spread across other camps. In places where humans were still chained, they now whispered his name. In places where slaves had no voice, they now repeated his words. Not all rulers accepted the new law, but none dared challenge it publicly. Cade healed slowly. He walked with a limp, but his eyes were clear. His back straight. Lyra remained by his side always. She was no longer a slave. She was not a servant. She was his equal. One evening, under the fading twin suns, Cade stood atop a hill and looked over the distant sands. Lyra joined him. "Will they ever stop fighting us?" she asked. "No," Cade said. "But now they know we'll fight back." She smiled and reached for his hand, and he didn't let go.